So this is a quick tutorial of Google Classroom, just to give you some ideas on some of the features available in it. In Google Classroom, when you first log into your classroom, you will see your stream, and your stream is just like any other social media that you go on. It's just a list of things that get posted to your class. So sometimes it can be hard to facilitate and for students to find things in your classroom. So that's why when we talk about classwork, we'll specifically talk about some specific things there. Here's your header. If you don't like your header, you can always change your theme, so you can select your own theme. You've got different choices. You can do English and history, you can do sports, you can do other here. So let's just pick the gaming one. Select class theme, your picture changes. You also have the option to upload your own photo. So if you choose upload photo, if you've created your own in some other program or in Google Drawings, you can then upload your own photo or incorporate your Bitmoji somehow. Lots of different options for you to differentiate your classes. If you go up to your settings, which is the gear at the top, something I do recommend is only teachers can post or comment, so then you're not going to get all the back and forth from students in your stream or in your feed. You also have the option to students can only comment, so they can only leave comments back on things that you've posted. But just kind of watch that. You can leave it where students can create their own posts, but one of these two, students can only comment or only teachers can post or comment. Your choices for your options there in your Google Classroom. Now let's kind of go into the classwork side of things. So, well, before we get there, let's talk about people. So in here, in your people, you can easily add students. You click the plus, and then you start to invite students via their email address. So if you know someone's email address, if this is linked to your school account, you can just start to type the student's information. So let's just say John. And if there isn't one, otherwise the students will just start to populate down here in your search results. You click on them, it'll add them here to this area, and then students, when they go into their Google Classroom, will just hit their join button and they're in your class. All right, let's talk about classwork. So in your classwork here, I'm going to delete this since we talk about that in a second. So here's your classwork, and this is where you can really organize your class and make it easy for students to find your information. So if you click Create, these are your topics or your areas to be able to create. So let's just start with a quick material. So if you have material, you can call your information whatever you like. I'm just going to call it quick material. And then you can, under here, we can call it materials. So let's just call this quick test material, or we can call it syllabus. How about that? We're going to add, and you have various choices for things to add. I'm just going to add a file, and then I'm going to go to my Finder, and I'm going to find something in my downloads, and let's just do this New York Times article here. There. So there we go. It's there. I'm going to upload. It's uploading that file. And if you want to add more things to this as you go, you certainly can do that by adding more files. You don't just have to add one thing at a time. You can add as many things as you like. There it is. It's added. And I'm all set. You can add multiple things here by just simply clicking this link here. So if you have some place that you want the students to go, if you know you want them to use an Adobe Spark and they're like, well, I don't know how to get to that place, you can copy the link. You can add a link and paste your link in and add the link. Now students can just click on that and we'll take them right to the website that they need to go to. So pretty straightforward. Then I add a topic and I'm going to post my material. Great. So whenever students need to find information, they can go over here on the left-hand side, and this is where all of their topics will be. So it's easy for students to find things. So let's create now an assignment. Okay. So if I create an assignment here, You can create a rubric if you'd like to. So let's just create an assignment. We're going to call it presentation. Okay. I'm going to make it, we're going to call this ungraded. This is just a practice. I can add a due date. So let's say it's going to be due Thursday. I can add a time. So 11:59 is the default, so that's the end of the day. And then I'm going to create a new topic, and I'm going to call this one presentation. Okay, so I've got that, and let's say that I only want to add it to a couple of students. If you click at all students over here, you can uncheck this box, and you can just pick the students that you want to push this out to. So if you have an assignment that you want to try to differentiate, you just pick who you want it to go to, and then only the students that you've checkmarked are the ones that will get that assignment in their stream and in their classwork on their page. Okay, so now I've got instructions. Please complete the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to add. Now, this is where the fun part comes in. So you are going to add it from Google Drive, and here's my presentation. I just have a blank template. If you have one that you've already created with some information on the side, you're good to go. So this is the big key here, is your sharing settings. Okay, so I'm going to say got this, and I'm going to talk about each of them. So if you choose this one, students can view the file, so they can see your generic presentation. If you choose the second one, students can then edit the presentation, can edit the file. But this is all students editing the same presentation, and you do not want that. You want the students, which is your last choice, make a copy for each student. So now what's going to happen is, as you make a copy for each student, the students are going to get their own copy. Okay, so I am going to make a copy for each student. So I have, we've set up everything that we want to in our presentation. We've got our topic, we've got make a copy for each student. Maybe I want to add a rubric, so I'm going to add a file to the bottom of this. Select files from my device on the desktop, and here we go. Social media rubric, upload. Okay, we are doing great on that. Oh, I needed to add my link. So I want Adobe Spark. So you can add multiple things to this presentation as you're going. And then I added a student, added myself, and then I'm going to click Assign. So the great thing when you make a copy for each student is that then you can watch each student creating the presentation in real time, and you can leave comments. Okay, so for example, let's look at this presentation. If I look at the presentation, I can see how many people have turned it in. I can see how many students it's assigned to. If I click on this, boom, here's my information. All of my students will be listed on the side here. I can click on their presentation, and I can start seeing what they're doing. Okay, so we've got this presentation. We're working hard. Pop out the student's assignment. Yeah, I don't need to do that because I want to work right in here. You can't see the toolbar in Google Slides, but if you click on this little drop-down menu here, then you can see the toolbar that you're normally used to seeing in Google Classroom. So you've got all your stuff here for the student. And it's great because you can leave comments right here in the student presentation. You can help them along the way. You can make changes to their presentation as they're working. A lot of great things. You can add private comments to help them along the way too. It's like, oh, well, I see on slide 2 you forgot to capitalize this, or make sure on slide 4 you're adding this image in, or make sure that the images aren't grainy, however you're working on the presentation. And the other great thing is too, I don't have to go back to Google Classroom. I can just choose my drop-down menu and I see a list of all of my students, or I can just hit the arrow here on the side and forward through all of the presentations as I'm working. So it's really, really awesome. And then you can also just return things to students too. So one of the things, when students turn it in, they lose their rights to edit the presentation. So once you return it to them, then they can go back and edit that. They can also unsubmit on their own and then start working on the presentation that way as well. All right, so let's go back in. So we've got some classwork. So you have your presentation. I'm going to create just one more assignment here. So I'm going to create a paper. We're just going to call this write me a paper, write me your essay. Same thing, we're going to add a Google Drive document in here. So we've got Google Drive. I've got a document already ready to go that I want to add. Here we go. It's called generic document. I'm going to add this to my presentation. We are all set. This one's going to be worth 75 points. Well, great. I'm going to make my due date on this one. So just to be funny, let's make my due date on April 1st. Okay, and again, my time. There we go. This time, I'm going to change a new topic. We're going to create a new topic, and we're going to call my topic Essays. Great. So we've got that. It's going to go to all students. I want to make sure that I make a copy for each student so they get their own copy. And then let's talk just a little bit about rubrics. So if you want to create a rubric, you can reuse one, you can import one from Sheets if you already have them. So if you create a rubric, this is the page that you get. Okay? So you're going to use scoring. You're going to essay here. What am I looking for? I'm looking for spelling. How many points is spelling worth in this? We've got that. Great. Add another criteria. Grammar. All right. How many points is this? This is worth 25 points. And then works cited. And this is also, this is going to be worth 50 points. Okay. So once I've got that, it already tallied all my stuff. So it did 25, 25, and 50. It knows that it's out of 100. So I've got that. Now, the thing is, the rubric is out of 100. My points are out of 75. Well, it doesn't auto-update, so I got to change this back to 100. Okay, so think about that when you're creating your rubric. We've got the paper. We've got your write me the essay. We've attached my document. Again, we've got the rubric over on the side. If you have one specifically written up, let's just add our other rubric that we added for the presentation, just to kind of show you how to do this again real quick. Click on that, and again, you would have different rubrics, but I'm just showing you how to upload multiple files. So we've got this, and again, you do have some other choices. Make a copy for each student, but it's just a PDF, so students aren't going to really edit this PDF in Google Classroom. So we're going to assign. Okay. So this is assigning to our students. Same things happen here as did with my presentation. I'm going to click on my paper. Great. Here we go. I'm going to view the assignment. Here we go. We've got my paper. So then, as I'm looking at this assignment from myself, or the person that it's assigned to, here we go. How did we do on this? Yep, they got all 25 points. On their grammar, they did not do as well. I'm going to give them 22 points. Okay, got that. I'm going to change this to 22. And then out of 50 for their works cited, they did okay. We'll give them 37 points. But you can see now that it tabulates my information at the top. Okay, so I can see that this student got 84 out of 100. And then I can return this to the student. And I can leave them a private comment. Pretty good job, but missing some works cited. And you should proofread before you submit. All right, so there you go. And I'm going to return this back to the student. So now the student has the information, and they have their score. That's how you would use a rubric if you want to specifically tell students exactly how they're doing in each area and grade each area individually. Okay, so that's pretty awesome in the rubric. So here's our stream. We've posted a syllabus, we've posted a presentation, we posted a paper. In our classwork, we see everything as we similarly do in our stream, but this is why you create topics. Over on the side, I can click on my essay over here, and here we go. Now it really hides everything else, and I'm just seeing the essays I've assigned. So if you have different units that you're working on, specifically in math, or you're working on proper nouns and language arts, or in science, you're working on photosynthesis, or social studies, you're working on the Civil War, you can specifically add your topics over on the side, so all materials, all assignments, all announcements are under one specific topic over on the left-hand side, and it's easy for students to find their information in your classroom. Well, so let's talk about a couple of other things that you can use. If you have assignments in other classes, you can reuse that post. So I'm going to just, I'm going to go back to my classes here, and I'm just going to create a class just to show you how the reuse post works. I'm going to continue. I'm going to call this the reuse class. And so to reuse your assignment, this is pretty awesome. So if I go into my classwork and I click create and I go to reuse post, I'm going to go, you have to pick your class. I go from Flex Learning, boom, look at this. All of the posts that I've already created in my Google Classroom are right here. So I'm going to pick my, let's go to my paper. I'm going to click reuse. Look at this. My rubric is already built. The topic is already created for me. My attachments are already there. It already says make a copy for each student. The only thing that it didn't do is my due date. So if you want to, it won't do your date. So let's say March 20th, 11:59, and we're all set. So for this though, let's say it's going to be due that day, but I want to schedule it here. I'm going to schedule it to go out on the 24th. Actually, I got to change my due date. So my due date, let's make my due date April 16th. Okay, so now I want to schedule this, and I'm going to schedule it for March 27th at 8 a.m. So now your document is your assignment is scheduled. So the students will not see this. So at 8 a.m. on March 27th, this assignment will automatically post to all to your class, and that's pretty awesome. The one thing that you can't do is you cannot schedule to multiple classes. So if you have an assignment that you're trying to create in your class, so for example, if I go in here and I want to just generate a student's a question, how are you today? Okay. To schedule, actually here, I want to do both classes. Now I can't schedule anymore. When you do multiple classes, you can't schedule, but because you can reuse the post, scheduling isn't such a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to discard this draft because it doesn't matter to me, but this allows you to, well, let me talk about that real quick here. So in your question, down here, you can choose students can reply to each other. Yeah, you probably don't want that based on your question. So if you're going to ask students a question, then the biggest thing in here that we talked about in your settings is you have to allow students to comment on your question. So you will want that part turned on. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about is the quiz assignment. So if you want to ask the students a quiz or have the students take a quiz, you do the quiz and it will automatically create a Google form. You go into your Google form. Here is your Google form. Okay. Let's label our quiz. We're going to call it generic quiz. And we're all set. And then you just start to build your quiz in here. You've got short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, checkboxes, drop down, and all of these things. We'll talk about Google Forms in its own separate video, but the beauty of it is, let's say I ask a question, who starred in Toy Story 3. We're going to say Tom Hanks. Colin Hanks, or your handkerchief. Okay, so you've got your choices here. Choose your answer key. Well, it was Tom Hanks. We're going to make this worth 1 point. We're going to say done. This is going to be required. And that is how you just start to generate. If you want to use the same choices again, then you can duplicate your thing, your question, right? And we've got this, who starred in Orange County. We've got our question. I want to change my answer key. This time it was Colin Hanks. I'm going to uncheck Tom Hanks and say done. And now I have a 2-question quiz for the students. You don't have to worry about sharing it. You don't have to worry about how you're going to get it out. You don't have to worry about anything in your quizzes because it's already set and you're ready to go. It's awesome. It will already, when you are in your Google account, it will already have that it's collecting addresses for students, but then I would check the limit to one response so your students can't take this quiz more than one time. So we're back here. We've got our please take the quiz. And this is going to be on presentations. Okay. The due date is going to be due. Now, if I put the due date in there, students can still take it after the due date. It just tells you that the students turned it in late. And this is going to be worth 46 points. And then I assign it. So there we go. When I click on my presentation, here are the two items that I have under my presentation. I have my quiz and I have my presentation that the students are going to take. Okay. I'm going to delete this topic. So that is a general overview of your Google Classroom. In your grades, you'll see that students, you have your scores over here. You can change scores right in here as well. So maybe I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what, you did a better job. I'm going to return this back to the student. Continue working hard. Great, I'm going to return this. Now we got a new score for the students. So you can grade things right in here. I can click on the link at the top and I can get right to the student's paper, and that is right in your grading. That is a quick little tutorial of Google Classroom. If you have any questions related to Google Classroom or you'd like me to make a video on something more specific, please let me know.